Hey there, listeners. Had a wonderful interview with a gentleman by the name of Anirban Bhattacharyya, and we had a great conversation. And the title of the episode is Purpose Led Leadership. Now, the thing that Andy shared was that leadership is about giving back and fulfillment. And what does he mean by the fulfillment piece? Well, a lot of leaders want to achieve goals and achieve things in life, but are they really fulfilled? An interesting question. Empathy is a big pillar in leadership, and it sure is, and it seems to be getting stronger all the time. The other thing he shared was that leaders should drive employee satisfaction. Hey, as I said in opening up this episode, it was a wonderful interview with Andy. So sit back and enjoy the interview.
Welcome to Leadership is Changing. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change. This is taking your leadership to another level by finding the balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. It's time to adapt in our fast-moving world when leadership is changing with your host, Dennis Giannoutsas.
Hey there, listeners. Welcome to another wonderful episode of the Leadership is Changing podcast. It's great to have you here with us. I've got an awesome guest today. His name is Anirban Bhattacharyya, and Andy is a cool guy. And Andy, a massive welcome to you.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Yeah, good to have you here. Now, Andy, whereabouts in the world are you today?
I'm speaking from New York.
So you're in New York, the United States of America, which is all very good. And so, of course, you're in autumn now. We're in spring here in this part of the world, and we're looking forward to our summer as well. Have you had a great summer?
Had a very good summer. It's been a interesting summer as I believe in climate change. So a lot of opinions about the summer and the temperatures and the rains. Why it's raining, why it's not raining. So a very interesting summer because I always see in the lens from climate change.
Right. Yep. Fair enough. Now, I understand that you're a sustainability expert and the founder of Amplify 4.0.
That's a product name, but the name of the company is Amplo Global. Yeah.
Good. Very good. So that's the product name is Amplify 4.0?
Amplo flies 4.0. It flies.
Oh, it flies. Oh, nice.
Oh,
Very good. And so what I'd like you to do is I've given a brief introduction to the listeners already for this episode. But what I'd love you to do is to tell us more about your background.
My background has three versions of my background. The first version of my background is a very much average Bengali Indian born high school engineering grad, came to the West, nothing fancy, undergrad from a good school, got a job, moved to West, started my career, right? Worked for a few years, went back to school for my MBA here in the US, worked again at Wall Street, back to consulting, MBA, Wall Street consulting. And then I wanted to do something disruptive, which I have been thinking, which has to be purpose-led. And I started my own startup. So as of February, March this year, we have defined an exclusivity with AWS. So we are an AWS company. And my 1.0 was over when I wrapped up my corporate career. 2.0 is now getting over when I'm wrapping up my entrepreneurship or always be an entrepreneur. And my 3.0 is starting where I'm thinking what I would be doing, right? So should I continue at the board of my startup? Should I really start fresh back a corporate career? So my life 3.0 is starting. And besides work, I write books, I teach, and I drive a large nonprofit in the anti-sex trafficking area. So a lot of field experiences, a lot of executive experiences, a lot of challenging moments, on the feet thinking. But these four things that I do, right? Work, writing, teaching, entrepreneurship. One thing is very clear in my 3.0 version in my head is, for me, it's all about give back. One of the biggest thing I have learned about through my failures and through my experiences is why I was born. And once I knew that why I was born, Dennis, I realized that not everybody is born for every reason. And for me, it is all about giving back and fulfillment. That's a little bit of my background, what I do. So yeah, back to you.
Thank you. So I've got some questions for you. Amplo Global. That's your organization. Tell us
Mhm.
more about what they do.
It's basically a climate tech startup. Let's say a mature startup now. It basically, if you really see the overall sustainability space, there are, I would say, three broad areas, right? You have a risk management area, you have a carbon accounting area, and then you have the reporting area, right? So our energy focuses mainly around, I would say, on the risk area. That's what we do. When I say risk, if I don't do this, then what happens to my supply chain? If I don't make sure that I don't worry about my supply risk or weather risk or heat risk or water risk, energy risk. So what happens to my supply chain? So that's where we play. That's where our sweet spot is. Being all the founder, all the leaders in our company are mainly coming from supply chain background. So that's where we started. So that's what we do. We do supply chain risk analysis with a heavy component of climate, water, energy.
Okay, good. Good to know. Now, you also talked about something that's very important for you in life is about giving back and fulfillment. You're writing books and you're also about the nonprofit. What books have you written? You said to me before that you're going to a book launch. Is that right?
In like, yeah, 30, 35 minutes, I will be heading to a book launch. So this is the most recent book that came out. It's called In Pursuit of a New Dawn. In Pursuit of a New Dawn. It's about 8 short stories about 8 female protagonists, about 8 social issues. I have always been, I want to be a change maker. I want to make sure that I have my own movement. My movement is through words, through pen, through writing. And that's how I want to create a movement. So, especially all the struggles that we go through as humans, I chose women as a category to really write about them and through a man's eye. I'll give an example of this book, the 8 short stories. One example is like, I was in a rural area in India and in a village where the spouses generally they get killed by Royal Bengal tigers. The name of the area is called Sundarban. It's a very, very rich, enriching green area, and a lot of tigers out there. So the people who go for fishing, they get attacked by tiger, they get killed. So I met one of the widows out there, and she told me in the native language to me that, look, Andy, my husband was not killed by a tiger. I fled out of the house because of the domestic violence. Nobody knows that, like I'm saying as a widow out here. So that's it. And that's a plot I got. I fictionalized it in my head. And I showed a dichotomy between a patriarchal tiger versus a Royal Bengal tiger. So that's a message to the audience of the book. The name of the story is called The Tigress. Out of the 8 stories, one of them was this story. But I always finish the stories in hope, with hope. I'm a big hopeful person. That's the only thing I have is a hope, right? We all have hope. That's how we go. That's the latest book. But I also have written a couple of other fiction books. I've written a novel about a protagonist who lives in New York and he goes to Nepal, saves a woman getting trafficked, and he falls in love with the woman and the whole paraphernalia after that. I also written a business book, came out from locally in New York and India. It's about selective automation. What does it mean? If your skylines, this electricity can be saved and some lights can be turned off, let's turn off those lights to save some energy. It's selective automation. Arm movement of a robot, it creates heat. So if you can reduce the arm movement of the robot, you save heat dissipation. So selective automation is a new normal concept from full automation. So I wrote a book around selective automation. When do you automate? When you choose not to automate. So it's the term that industry uses, or the terminology in the business arena is called Industry 5.0, which means that in the fifth revolution, selective automation is coming up. 4.0 is full automation, right?
Mm.
So these are some of the books I've written, both business and fiction. So I feel that this is the way my movement and give back is. So I'm writing a new book on leadership. I've got a new book. I'm interviewing a few leaders. I would love some of the audiences here to reach out to me for it, getting interviewed, because I'm looking for leaders to get interviewed. I'm writing a new memoir on leadership. Yeah, the day I got lucky.
Very good. Very good. awesome books and the work that you're doing as well. In Pursuit of a New Dawn. So listeners, check that book out too when it comes out. And yeah, it's out now by the sounds of it. So very exciting. Now, Andy, how did you actually get into leadership yourself?
Okay. So for me, when I was a kid, I remember the days in India, I had a habit of kicking a Pepsi can. I love soccer and I used to kick. And then I got into a bus and I go to school. So every time in the bus, there is something was going to happen and I'm going to manage, right? Who will sit where, right? Why there is a disagreement in the bus, why two kids are fighting. I was also a kid. When I used to play the gully cricket, I would be the captain of the cricket. I'm managing the team. Somebody wants to bat first, somebody wants to bowl first. So the acumen was always there, right? As I grew up, I always chose in my first day of my career, I knew that besides getting into technical things in my career, I definitely want to increase the aspect of empathy. And for me, empathy is a very big component, very big pillar in leadership. So it came out. It came out in my work, in my books, in my teaching, in my nonprofit. And I really figured out that leadership is an integral part of how you think. There are various parts of leadership, right? I went to Duke University, Fuqua School of Business, and I got the luck to get the best coaching out there, best professors out there. And one of the things I learned about leadership is the two words I always remember. The best coach in basketball, college basketball, Coach K said that it's all about two words in your life: next play, next play. Remember those two words in your life.
Mm.
And I remember every day I wake up in the morning, it's next play. It has so depth, right? I'm a big fan of Nelson Mandela. His vision of rugby and sports and apartheid and politics is huge for me. I am a strong believer in inspirational leadership. I'm a big fan of uh, Barack Obama, where he talks about contextual leadership. So I'm a big fan of various types of leadership, but what I focus myself on is inspirational leadership. So it's about leadership that has to inspire and make an average person to be above average.
Mm.
So my mission, my vision, all automatically has gone into leadership. So now in the middle of my career, I would say that leadership is a key component, whereas technicalities, making my resume, my core competent to be in the right demand of the market, those are important. Like everybody's talking about sustainability. Everybody's talking about AI, right? I always stay abreast on all these, right? But one thing that circumvents is leadership, right? It's
Mhm.
about everything you do from 1990s to 2000s to 2010s, right? If you see the last 30 years of movement, leadership is constant and it's
Mm.
improved. It's changing. It's changing as before COVID, post COVID. So yeah, it's been an integral part of my life. And I hope I really can remove the generation gaps between all the generations witnessing, millennials and then Gen Zs, and then I will see a new generation coming in. So it will be very interesting to witness how leadership changes based on the generations. And my job, I feel I'm responsible to bridge the gap.
Yeah. Okay, good. Good to hear that. Now, you've mentioned two of them already. I don't know if it's one of these two based on the next question. The next question is, who's your favorite leader and why?
It's a great question, right? I have two types of leadership that I follow. One type of leadership is like, I talked about Nelson Mandela. I followed a couple of Indian leaders as well when in childhood. Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. I also followed a little bit of Mahatma Gandhi as well, two different leadership styles, Nelson Mandela. But I also follow some of the sports players in my leadership, right? What intrigues me is sport like tennis, which is a single team sport sometimes, most of the times, how leadership is important, how strategy is important, right? Big fan of every event that happens in every 4 years. There's a big message to me from Olympics. It's a big message to me in Soccer World Cup. There's a big message to me from Cricket World Cup. Everything happens in 4 years, right? And why it's important to answer your question about who is my favorite leader. I have seen some cricket champions, right? I'll talk cricket a little bit. Like we both understand that language a little bit, is about the same captain 4 years before, the same captain 4 years after, how they change.
Mm.
So my favorite leadership has been both from, I would say, the space of world leaders in politics, world leaders in the industry, and sport leaders. So the three areas I follow. I follow another sort of leaders, right, who are really working without shining. Maybe in Congo, somebody is working with the elephants to understand their language and making a change in the animal kingdom, right? Somebody is working in a rural village in Africa to remove a very unknown virus, right? It needs leadership. It needs passion, right?
Yeah.
So really see, I'm dividing into four buckets: world politics, which is important; industry leaders, which is important; your sport leaders, which is important, right? And then your unsung heroes, where we don't know, those are also leaders, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I have buckets and I have leaders of choice in each of this. My leadership favorites are who are not born so God gifted.
Mm.
If somebody's God gifted, I follow them. They will anyhow be doing great, right? But a leader whom I follow more is who goes from an average to a mind-boggling leader, and I follow their journey, how they could
Nice.
do that, because I'm a very average person.
Mm.
So that's where I feel a difference between whom I follow, whom I don't follow at a regular basis. Yeah.
Excellent. Oh, that's great. Some good thoughts there too in relation to what you just shared. Now, the show here is called Leadership is Changing. When I say that statement, that title, what does it mean for Andy?
For me, there are leadership changing means twofold. One is, how do you balance hierarchical leadership to a non-hierarchical leadership? When I work in Bay Area in San Francisco, I wear shorts and have a beer and I'm having a meeting. When I'm coming in New York, I'm wearing a suit and I'm going to a New York City office, right? Both have advantages, both have positives, everything, like everything in life, right? And both have disadvantages, right?
Mm.
For me, leadership change is fourfold. First is my leadership actionable, measurable? Second fold is my leadership having results? Action doesn't mean we always have results, right? How do you drive results? Third is that result has a purpose. It's not only capitalism, beyond capitalism. And fourth is among these three: action, result, purpose, really creating a new avatar where this can be scaled and repeated for any industry, for any job. So I
Mm.
always ask myself that if I'm in a government job, in a government undertaking job, will I be able to apply these three: action, results, purpose? Or I will be able to do this in a company who really has challenges in landfill regulations or waste management. Will this three will be easier? I feel my leadership change to me is, be it hierarchical, be it non-hierarchical, it has to be anyone that is playing in the leadership as a changing, as we call it, focus on impact, results, impact, like result actions, impact, results, and purpose. So for me, leadership change is important because the third one, which I mentioned, is purpose. Not everybody embraces it. Not everybody embraces it, because once you have a profitability business, I don't have to worry about the purpose, right? And that's where leadership change should happen. For me, that's leadership change. When
Yeah.
I'm talking, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that I think that earlier on you talked about that you found what your purpose was in life. And I don't think that businesses and individuals, leaders, I don't think they all understand what their purpose is in life.
Yeah, absolutely. You will see half of the people will spend time to go up the ladder. Okay. Of course, they have to be above average. They have to be smart. And they also have to play the right corporate politics, right? Very important. And
Mm.
politics is not always bad. It's not a negative word for me, right? So I would say it positively in this discussion, right? So that's a ball game. So how do you go up the ladder, right? And once they go up the ladder, right, they want a good life for their kids, good life for their savings. Then I will ask them, sorry to be loud here, hey, what's your purpose? Oh, I became a VP. What's your purpose? I become a VP. I'm impacting 15 people in my company. I thought, sure, you're impacting 15 people. Did you ask in the mirror when you were alone in the bathroom? Right. And he looked at me and said, yeah, I'm asking you, do you realize that? Are you impacting? Then he called me the next day, real story. Hey, Andy, I'm going to write a book with you. Can you be a co-author with me on writing a book on leadership and impact? I said, absolutely. Let's do it. That 15 seconds conversation in the flight. Okay. And he's smart. That's the reason he will do it. He'll write a book with me. He's a change maker in his head that, "Oh, So me becoming a VP in the last 15 years, I haven't done anything for the audience. And he was right. Some leaders, if I have this conversation, they will not get it. They'll say, "Eh, who will spend timing on books and giving back? I will get some good savings from my kids. I'm making a two good citizens and I will die after that." Great. Stay in the family.
Mm-hmm.
There are leaders, right, who would say that, okay, I will not only go up the ladder, I will not only do this, but I will basically make sure that it is very important to make sure that I have a tendency of give back. So I've seen all the three types of leaders, right? So yeah, it's been a very humbling journey so far about how I've seen leaders in the ecosystem, right?
Mm.
Three types of leaders going up the ladder, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I feel, that sometimes our definition of success is very different.
Yeah. Yeah. And now you just mentioned about success and our definitions differently. I think we're living in a world that's getting faster and faster. Technology, data, business, social, it's all being driven a lot by technology and other things too. To be successful as a leader in today's world, what do they need to do in that fast-paced, ever-changing world? What are some thoughts from you?
So I feel that there's a lot of information, right? The best capability that someone can build, irrespective of age, is what to filter and what not to filter.
Mm.
Very important, right? It's about, you should have a machine in your head that I wake up in the morning. In the first 2 hours, I will filter and I will just do yoga. In the next 2 hours, I will absorb everything from my email from office. The next 2 hours, I will filter some of the emails. The next 2 hours, I will be only focusing on email responses before I go home. It's all about strategy. It's all about execution of the strategy, right? So a lot of data, a lot of technology. You know what I believe in, Dennis? Our needs should be and is very optimal, very, very optimal. We don't need, suppose $10 is the max number. You know what I've learned about it? We don't need $10. We need $6, maybe $4. But the remaining $4 to $6 is our want, not need,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? That maturity we have to have as human beings, as leaders in making or leaders, right? That what is the optimal living that I will have? And that's where some of the technologies will come in, some of the data will come in, some technologies will go away, some data will go away. So the balance between filtration capability, optimal living, and ambition needs to be balanced. That's where you
It's a
the
great,
filter.
great way of saying it. Yeah, it's a great way of saying it. Andy, I think the other thing here too is when we are looking at things in life, some people look at me and they go, "Oh, how come you're driving that kind of car?" And it's not a flash car. But you know what? I know that I can go and buy the flash car, but I choose not to buy the flash car. The reason being is that need versus want, right? And I would rather use the same amount of money and invest in my business or invest in other people or invest in other things rather than having some of those other things. But I know I can go and get I've had the other things too. I've had them before.
Mhm.
But it's going back to what you're saying. It's about the need and the want. It's actually the fulfillment versus the achievement versus. It's amazing. We could probably talk hours on that topic just by itself, right?
That's
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very good. Hey, look, you and I have both been employees, but also being leaders as well. If we were to change the lens from the leadership conversation to being an employee, has employees' expectations of leaders changed?
I feel, especially after COVID, yes. I feel like there's a lot of trust building activity that goes on between an employer and an employee, a leader and employee, right?
Mm.
Outcomes matter a lot. Sometimes outcomes would not be great. So some leaders want to check on the actions. So they want that somebody may force us to come to work, all of us to come to work. But I feel like with all these examples I'm giving, like an employee expects three things. I feel three things, right? One is appreciation. Second is empathy. And maybe that they are connected. And third is a steady increment of their knowledge base, right? A good employee, of course, the fourth component is the money, but I was not saying that because it's of a purpose-led conversation here. So look, a leader should drive employee satisfaction. A leader should drive because not every employee will have the same appetite, same maturity, same hunger, same quality. How do you take an average team and drive an above average outcome? So for me, more than an employee expectation, I know the question was on the employee side, but I feel like the leader should drive that. Because once a person becomes a leader, then the expectation changes, right? So that's what it is,
Yeah.
right?
Mm, mm. No, good points. So very good points. Hey, look, and the final question I've got here for you today, and that is, if you were to get your crystal ball out now and think about 5 years from now, where do you see leadership being?
I feel 5 years from now, leadership will be driven by four things and where leaders would be. I feel the chief executive officer, that the leadership highest rank, should be called maybe chief data economy officer or chief sustainability economy officer. I think that CEO role will be dominated by sustainability and by data. I feel as AI will come into. So do you see that the leadership will be much more, I would say, informed, more digital? Decision making will be easier for a leader. The first pillar I want to cover to answer this question is more informed leadership. Leadership should make the more right decisions and not a quick and fast decision. So that will be more and more informed, which is difficult right now. So, which means automatically leadership, which is both intuition based and information based, it will lean towards information, more intuition, which may be a good news, maybe a bad news, right? Which automatically tells me that the leaders will be more successful because not everybody brings intuition at the same level, but everybody will have the same information. Now, how you use those information to become a true leader is important. The first thing I will say, it's more informed leadership you will see. The second thing that you will see in the leadership in the next 5 years is how do you make sure that you play in the partner ecosystem? One of the shift you will see very soon that, and you're always seeing it, that an organization never solves a problem alone. They solve with the partners, right? I feel that with the climate change coming in, with so much AI coming in, with all this deglobalization happening, I feel that whole aspect of shifting to a mind of more purpose-led leaders would be more be appearing. So informed, purpose-led. Third is it is very important to realize that with this partner ecosystem, which I mentioned, leaders will slowly will release the boundary lines. I feel like there's a lot of blurring of the boundaries will happen between suppliers, OEMs, distributors. A lot of boundary-less transaction will start happening. A lot of merger and acquisitions will go at its highest speed. So I feel that there's a lot of partner play ecosystem will play, and that's where leaders have to make the call. The last one I feel is that I feel leadership will get into much more digital, much more omnipresent. Distance will be slowly become zero. Because if I have a lecture in New Zealand, tomorrow I have to present in New York. I think those things will become more and more easy. And I feel that leaders will be more connected. So more informed, more partner led, more purpose led, and more connected led. So that would be my say. And that's my thinking that the era we are getting into digitization and AI and clean tech and this and that, right? All others will be there. M&A will merger and acquisitions is a very, very long concept, but all the new normals that coming out, right? Climate tech, clean tech, data, AI, digitization will take a big seat, big seat. And I feel that there'll be a lot of like boundaries will be blurred. And that's where you will see different types of leadership coming up. And that's where we see that sometimes things will move from whatever we are into. I'll repeat this more, I would say more informed, more partner led, more purpose led, and more collaborative led. I think more collaborative leadership is coming through the era we are in.
Yep. I think you actually said connected lead as well at the end, but collaborative is what you're
Collaborative,
saying.
connected leaders, right?
Yeah,
We're
very
blurring
much
the
so.
industrial lines. Yeah.
Yeah. Andy, I think there's some great thoughts that you've shared with us today. It's been really great talking to you. Hey, look, if our listeners are wanting to get hold of you, where should they go?
So I have my email, which is my first name, Anirban, Anirban at amploglobal.com. I'm on LinkedIn. Easy to find. Anirban Amplo Global Press Center will find me. And then the website is amploglobal.com, Amplo, Amplo, global.com. Amplo in Latino means amplification. So amploglobal.com.
Excellent. We'll put those into the show notes, your LinkedIn and your website. Andy, once again, it's been a real pleasure talking to you. Share some great insights here and great thoughts. So thank you so much. So yeah, it's been really great.
Thank you so much.
Excellent. Well, there you go, listeners. Wow, what an awesome discussion that's been. It's about giving back and fulfillment as a leader, check out the book In Pursuit of a New Dawn. But empathy is a big pillar of leadership. Now, think about these two key words that Andy shared. Next play. Very important. I think Andy's favorite number is probably 4, because he's talked about 4 things and 4 examples as we've gone through these conversations today. But he just finished off here by talking about, well, he actually said before about action, results, and purpose. But here he's just finished off about being informed leaders, purpose-led, partner-led, connected-led, or being collaborative. Some very important things for us to think about. Hey, it's great being with you. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Leadership is Changing with your host, Dennis Giannoutsas. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change, inspiring executives and leaders to adapt and lead a bigger game in a fast-moving world.